Why don't we have a Robinhood-like platform, free trade-like, Trade Republic-like platform? Other brokers in the market, you can pay anywhere between $2 and $50 a trade. And so our model is zero. Wherever you can get the capital, get it and get started. Just get the money and get started and raise what you need. Don't raise too much. And just go, putting together a collection of people from diverse backgrounds that have something to add, not just in business, but in life. It all comes together to create something that's great.
Welcome to the Change Officer, Feras.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you here, man.
I'm happy to be here.
So it's been a wild ride since last year.
It has.
A lot of things happened.
Yeah, a lot has happened.
I want to talk first about a decision to switch gears. So you were working for some big corporates, Standard Chartered, Barclays, right? Yeah. Barclays. Yeah. Then you were working with Wamda Capital, right, as an investor, and some other companies as well. But it was more like a job. How did you decide to switch gears and then start on your own?
It's a good question. I think for me, I had been coming up on 5 years. At my last role, and I really just felt like I needed a big change in my life.
What was the part that you didn't like about? Probably it was, let's say, a convenient and a safe place to be.
That's always good. I mean, I don't know who doesn't like that, but exactly. I think that's part of the change that I needed. I think sometimes you need to challenge yourself.
Yeah.
And I've definitely felt like I needed to challenge myself. So I actually really liked what I was doing, and I love investing, and it's genuinely a passion for me and something that I enjoy doing, and something that I could see myself doing in the future again. But there's an opportunity to create a business that would empower other people to invest.
Yeah,
and that ultimately became, something that really kind of pushed me in the right direction, and so that's kind of the story of the beginning of the story of how Baraka.
I mean, look, when you say it like that, it sounds like, okay, I decided one day and just went for it. But there is so many people out there who are day in, day out thinking and dreaming about it, sitting in their at the office in the company they're working with and thinking, one day maybe I can start something on my own. That usually never happens.
Yeah, well, they can.
Yeah.
I mean,
what was was there any trigger when you said, okay, this is the right timing now, I'll go for it?
So it's not like there was a specific moment in time or a day. It was more about, I had been coming up on, let's say, 4.5, 5 years in my role, and I started thinking about what I wanted to do next. And actually, I mean, some people know this, some people don't, but I had kind of been, before I actually took the plunge, I thought for a couple of months about what it is I wanted to do. I genuinely sat down and thought about it every day. I would kind of do research about it. And what was interesting was that this came from first a real need. People would come to me and say, hey, where can I invest? How can I open up an account? Who do I open it with? And I would always give them advice on other players in the market, and they'd always come back to me saying, like, this is not what I expected, and so there was always that need, and then at the time COVID was basically just running rampant in many parts of the world, especially in the US, and the markets were falling off of a cliff, and then eventually they started recovering, and you kind of started to understand that the retail investors were doing something different this time around. They had a different idea about how to invest in the market. And so the combination of those two things, I thought, like, this is going to be really interesting. If this has legs, if people continue to invest, even though the economy wasn't doing so well, I just felt like there was a great opportunity to create something like this. And empower people to invest in markets, and give them the opportunity and access. And so for me, it was a combination of all of these things happening over several months. And then eventually it was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, you just got to do it. Like, you just got to jump in and do it. And I just did, basically.
Well, no, I mean, it's like, kudos. Like, you need to be brave for that. You have 2 young, under 3 years old kids, right?
Yes.
Family on your back,
yes.
That you need to support. Yeah. Making this kind of decision really, it takes courage. So I think it's a lot of people admire that characteristic with someone. When you compare being a creator versus investing in creators, how do you compare the two? And like you've been on this first side now for some time.
Yeah, I mean, I it's still early days for me as a quote unquote creator, but I definitely enjoy the experience a lot more than I thought I would as well, because I genuinely like investing a lot, and I didn't think that I would find something that I enjoyed more. But the ability to create is really phenomenal.
I guess it's the impact that you like every day, everything that you do, you can see a direct reflection of that on your business. The output.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally starting from nothing.
Yeah,
like just nothing. Like when I raised money, it was like nothing. It was raising money on a piece of paper, right? Here's the idea, and it was just a piece of paper. And so that, to me, like that journey now looking back, it's still really early days. Like I hate talking about it, because like what are we talking about? Like this is not, this is not a proven success story by any means. This is still very, very, very early in our journey. It's just, I had underestimated that feeling, and the sense of fulfillment that you get doing it, even in the early days. So I think that's something to experience, and that's why I kind of encourage everyone, just jump in. And I always, people ask me all the time now, hey, how do you get started? What do you do to get started? And it's like, just jump in. And my advice to people is just spend a little bit of money. Spend $2,000, $3,000, $5,000. Design a logo and a brand and an idea, and put your thoughts on paper, and spend a little bit of money so you feel a little bit stuck in. And then if you run with it, and if you don't, then put it away and keep doing what you're doing. Like keep working. I think there's you just have to try.
You can flirt, I guess, with the idea, as you said, and spend some money, but you need to spend some money and time. You need to have that skin in the game, and people like to see that. There's a lot of individuals out there who are just hoping to get an investment based on a chat in a bar, and then like get some money and then start without risking anything.
Yeah, it's tough.
But I like what you said, and I exactly know how you feel. People are now probably asking you, wow, you made it, or Baraka,
you made nothing, by the way.
Cool startup in the DFC Gate Avenue. You raised some funds. It must be great, but you feel like there's really still nothing that I can say, okay, I made it, or this is a success. How I see it, it's like you qualified for the league. You're in the league now, so there is a lot of people out there who didn't reach that stage even. A lot more. There are millions of people who are hoping to get some funding and to actually set up an office, hire some people, and start growing.
Yeah,
you have a chance now to make it, really. So and I like that you're humble about it, and I think that's one of the characteristics of highly successful people. Being humble about things that you're achieving, until eventually you really make it, when you can say, okay, now I'm really changing lives
of course,
of people, or helping others in a big way.
We have accomplished nothing so far. I mean, you have to really think about it. You're talking about the league. Define the league.
It means let's call a league. You qualified in the league, you raise funds, you can operate now for some time. You have a better chance than someone who didn't even reach that stage. Yeah,
but I mean, it's kind of like the league is a very broad term in the sense that like there's a local league, there's an international league, there's a mega league, there's in terms of like whatever company impact and valuation, however you want to measure. And so like we're and so the league is big. The league, when you kind of think about it that way,
you have first league, second league, third league.
Exactly. So we're like, still very, 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 very early. And you have to maintain that sense of kind of like eagerness.
I think it's also for it's in our nature that we always benchmark and compare ourselves with bigger and better. And no matter what you do, you always feel like, wow, I didn't do anything, I didn't achieve anything. Look at these other companies who are like nailing it or whatever. But you should be also kind of realistic about it and give yourself some, encouragement by saying, okay, I did a major thing, reaching even this stage. Now ahead of me, there is a long journey. to turn this into a actually, stable, sustainable, profitable company. There's a long way to go. Let's talk more about Baraka. You define Baraka as a UAE-based startup on a mission to connect young urban millennials to numerous investment opportunities through a vibrant and transparent ecosystem. That's the pitch line that we captured.
Changes.
Yes. Explain us how Baraka works. What's Baraka's model?
Yep. So we're a commission-free investment app for the Middle East. We're available in 6 GCC countries for the time being. And we offer access to US markets, over 5,000 stocks and ETFs, commission-free. And so, we want people to jump in, download the app, get onboarded, hopefully fully digitally in a matter of a few minutes, and start investing. And so that's basically our proposition.
Comparing this for everyone out there to understand, when you say commission free, comparing to the other ways of investing, how does this compare to going to some, hedge fund or whoever who can help me out? Like, what's the difference between your model and other models of investing?
So I think we're a self-directed platform, which basically means we don't offer any investment advice. You come on the platform, you have access to 5,000 stocks and ETFs. You can pick and choose whatever you like. And so you buy, you sell, whatever. You can invest with a minimum of $1. And so we have fractional shares. So you can buy like Amazon stocks, 3,000, whatever the price is now, you can buy it for $1 and you buy a fraction of it, that kind of stuff. So when you compare that with other brokers in the market, you can pay anywhere between $2 and $50 a trade. And so our model is $0.
All right.
Per trade. If you want to compare it to other platforms, robo-advisors or managed funds, robo-advisors charge 50 basis points.
What are the robo-advisors?
Where basically they manage a portfolio for you. So they tell you give them your money, do a risk assessment, say like medium risk. They decide which investments are good for you, and you pay them a fee, 50, 0.5%, 1% a year, that kind of a thing. And so those are the two kind of fintech models. And then there are managed funds or actively traded funds and so on that can charge you anywhere between 2%, 1 to 2%. And sometimes in some cases a performance fee, and that's kind of a different product.
So when you came up with the idea, you said you talked to a lot of friends who told you their pains or they're hoping to get. Where do you see the biggest opportunity here regionally? This is the model that is some shape or form exists around the world, I guess.
Yeah.
Some compare it with Robinhood. I'm not sure that's the same model or similar, but along the lines. But where did you see the real opportunity here in the market?
I think we just wanted to create an intuitive experience for people to access markets. And so that means like digital onboarding, and just easy to use platform that has access to many different stocks and ETFs. At its simplest form, that's what it is, right? There's obviously some other stuff, some other features and products that we're adding and that we're working on. But that's pretty much it. And so
doesn't exist at the moment.
They exist in various forms. The way that I wanted to see it done didn't exist. And so this was a big driver for me, is like, why don't we have a Robinhood-like platform, Free Trade-like, Trade Republic-like platform that's just easy to use? The amount of time, so people would say to me, can't get onboarded, it takes too long, right? I don't understand the app. It's super complicated. You open it up, and there's buttons and charts and whatever. And people just basically want to be like, I want to buy it, I want to sell.
Couple of clicks.
Pop. Make it as simple as possible, right?
Why do you think the others are not doing it? Like, what's preventing them?
I think that I'm not sure. They have legacy businesses that are built on kind of older systems and probably have a set client base that like is used to using that app. And that generation is used to doing that, right? Doing, it's working for them. They probably underestimate the opportunity, which is, like Robinhood basically went up against Fidelity and Charles Schwab and these guys, big players, probably underestimated the opportunity as well. And so what we're not underestimating is the region and the population of the region. 70% of the population is under the age of 30. Yeah. It's a big stat.
Yeah.
It's a big stat.
And their wealth is growing.
They're wealthy, they're getting wealthier, and they want products and services that they can call their own. And so, that's what Baraka is all about. That's what we're building, is that essentially. So
when you say commission free, is it difficult to build a commission free model, or how do you make it
it's difficult to build regulated fintech businesses in general. It's challenging. It's challenging. Building a business is challenging for many reasons.
Locally, we're talking about the region.
I think generally, right? I mean, we had this discussion, but
yeah.
Generally, I think it's challenging. Is commission free any more challenging? I don't necessarily think so. I think
it's just the path that you selected for your business.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the path that people demand, and so the path that it's what we see happening in other parts of the world. And a big part of the drive was, hey, why can't we have this here? Why are we waiting for X, Y, and Z? People would tell me, I'm waiting for Robinhood to come to the region. It's like, why? What are we doing? Like, why are we doing that? And why is that
why to wait?
Yeah. Why can't we create this here? And it's a bit of like the Kareem story. It's like, I use Uber when I'm in New York, but then there's nothing here. So what? Just create Kareem here, right? Create like a similar kind of model. And so that's a big part of the push, is like we're a local platform, but we're trying to create an experience that people would, the look and feel of something that they would experience somewhere else, because they have that thinking. So yeah.
When you came up with the idea, you decided to go for it, and in a matter of months, almost you had everything figured out. You raised some funds. You have the app.
I still don't have things figured out.
All right. Okay, that's an ongoing process. But where I'm aiming with this question is, you raised funds. You have an app now out there. You had to put some things together in order to make all of this work.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's not straightforward.
No, it's not.
What was the most challenging and difficult part in putting this puzzle together to actually make this model work?
I think probably getting over my own expectations is quite challenging. So when you first start, you think like things move a lot faster than you expect. You kind of have this assumption that things are going to move very, very fast. And while you can only push so much, in a business like this where you have multiple stakeholders, including, this is a regulated business, we're regulated by the DFSA, you can only move so fast. Like you can only push as hard as you can. And so it's that realization that like, while you have this kind of, you have a plan and you're pushing ahead and you're building and all, you have, especially in our businesses, multiple stakeholders. And so you can't move as fast as you would necessarily like. And so it's kind of like me having to adjust my own thinking, but also really still wanting to push ahead. And so I guess that's partly been the biggest challenge, is kind of.
Well, putting together the whole technologically and then regulatory model together to work, investments, I'm not sure now, these integrations between different, I guess, markets, etc. That piece of, how did that go?
Good. Yeah. I mean, it's like it's also very challenging, of course, and it's very iterative. So you build something, you test it, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. It's constant. And so I guess with all of this stuff, with the whole process, it's kind of like this learning of like, it's just iterative. You try something, you stop it, you start something else, you're always tweaking. There is no real like structure. And that applies to the technology as well.
It's just
like
flowing.
We're constantly building and improving. And so people are always telling us, you should do this, this, and this. It's like, yeah, that's all coming, but like there's an order. And so it's just constant. Yeah. And so I always tell the teams, like, you just have to get really comfortable with the fact that we're always going to be uncomfortable. And basically just like, just adapt and understand that it's kind of like, it's just how it's going to be. It just genuinely is like that. And so it's that learning curve also team building and getting everyone to think around the same way. Yeah.
We're going to talk about the team. That's a big topic. And I guess you did some good work so far. Before we step into that topic, I want to talk about the investment and raising investment. And that's a big topic in general. You know, there are a few businesses out there that made it without raising any funds or investing at least some significant capital. There is hundreds of thousands of people who didn't do it. I failed a couple of times miserably and learned some lessons, invested a lot of time, money, and energy in building something, only to realize that I started raising way too late at the time, because I didn't have right people around me. You know, I started knocking doors, you know, and just be in the queue with thousands of other people.
Yeah.
What are some of the lessons that you learned and some of the advices for raising capital? How did you do it? I mean, you came from the background of being an investor and you worked for a VC, right?
Yeah.
Then you successfully raised funds. What would be your kind of playbook for raising funds?
It's a good question. I think that you just have to have a very compelling story and drive to build this business, and then kind of surround yourself with people who kind of believe in that. There's no magic, right? There's no secret. Like, I hate to break it to everyone, but it's not really, there's no like really secret formula. And it's not about raising the capital. It's about building the business. You know, you raise the capital to build the business. I think a lot of people conflate the two, and it shouldn't be that way. For me, I was at a point in time where I had enough experience probably in the corporate world or doing what I was doing that and I was lucky. I was very lucky because I knew people that I could reach out to about potentially investing. So like I had a leg up. You know, I'm very open about that, right? But then ultimately they don't give you money for nothing. You know, these people are focused on bringing returns to their funds. And so you just have to have a compelling story. And, you know, actually the first check was from a lot of people that I've never met before. You know, it was all over Zoom and people that I had never had any contact with.
How did you get in touch with them? How did you find them? Or it happened like they found you?
So in some cases they found us, in some cases they were introduced by others, and it just happens that way. When you have a compelling story, I think it kind of comes together. And so, I mean, it was actually quite a surprise. Like the people that I knew, like the majority of them weren't the ones that actually like backed me very early on. It was other people. And so these things.
What was the total number of investors you had in the first round?
4 or 5 VCs, but then we had like a bunch of small angels.
But that's what people, I think what people are not aware of, that very often in these first rounds there is a lot of people investing, like 10, 20, even 30 people putting together 20, 30, 50,000.
I mean, like the advice is kind of like, wherever you can get the capital, get it and get started. Like don't put barriers. Oh, I only want from this VC or that. Like, actually, no, just get the money and get started and raise what you need. Don't raise too much and just go. Like, I think that is the thing, is like, if you get started and you show traction, or you show that you're building and you show that you're getting closer to where you want to be, there's a lot of money out there. There's plenty of money. There's lots of capital.
Actually, at the moment, there is a lot more capital than good opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, in YC, they call it a buffet of money.
Buffet of money.
It's just, there's money everywhere. It's really quite insane. So it's not, I mean, if it's a great time to build a company. If you have the drive and the ambition to do so, it's a great time to go out and raise. You'll definitely find investors.
So did you work on your...
Sorry, I'm just going to say, also look in the right place. I think, you know, and I get this even now from founders, like, who can I raise from? Well, what stage are you at? If you're a pre-seed fund, if you're a pre-seed company where you have nothing, it's just a piece of paper essentially, you need to raise from pre-seed funds. Like, don't go to a Series A fund or a Series B fund and say, hey, give me money. And then they're going to say no for obvious reasons. And then you take it as a rejection. Well, because they don't invest in that stage, it doesn't make sense. So you have to kind of match with the right funds to give yourself the right opportunity, right? Well, I think that's something that people overlook. They just say, I spoke to 10 VCs and 9 told me no. but like 8 of them were, don't invest in your stage. So really you spoke to 2, right? And I think that people really need to understand that.
Yeah. What I learned, what was my mistake. So we invested a lot in the product. We built the product. We drive traffic. We had growth that was fueled by paid marketing. So we had continued. We were supposed to continue investing to continue the growth, obviously, right? But we started even thinking about raising and looking for right people way too late. And the timeline that we were looking at to actually get money to our account was way too long that we could actually sustain investing and continue building the app. So when I asked you this question, like if you had to map out, there are certain things that you should start thinking way before you actually think of going and approaching someone. You had people to go to when the moment for raising capital came. If someone out there doesn't have anyone around them who is an investor or that don't know anyone in VCs, would you say it's a smart idea to start building those relationships before you actually need to go and raise money?
Of course.
Because otherwise you'll be just knocking at the door. Hey, hi, my name is Feras. I have this great, stand in the queue. So
even now, right? We're building relationships with funds that are
waiting you in Series C, D.
Yeah. Well, Series A, B, C, whatever. Because they want to get to know you. And so I was lucky in the sense that like they knew me. And so, they automatically like, okay, well, you check one box and then is the idea credible? Is he building the right team? All of these things that come with it. But if they don't know you, you've got another hurdle to jump. And so you've got to solve that. That's your starting point. So build relationships with people early, a few months before. It doesn't have to be VCs.
Exactly.
First
doesn't
round,
have to
first
be VC.
round, pre-seed round when you have nothing.
Usually it's not VC.
Generally not VCs, right? Angels. There are pre-seed funds, but there's not a lot in the region.
Do you think that's a challenge? That's something that we need to work on?
I think so. I think it's a massive opportunity, for sure. It can be better.
Talking about the team, did you build a team before part of it? How did you gather them around?
Yeah, I mean, I basically hired people before I received any money from investors.
So you hired them on your own?
Yeah, I put in a substantial amount of money in the business in the first couple of months. And that was basically because I just wanted to go. And so that was to hire lawyers and compliance and...
Tell me about the what would be top 5 players.
Technology.
Who are the first 3 persons that you hired?
So I hired... it was functions, right? So legal, compliance, and then just hired somebody that was just for everything, basically just helping me do just about everything. And then, technology.
As a co-founder or?
Yeah.
Cool. So you've built the app. The app is now live.
Yes.
7 days. Okay, at the moment of publishing this episode, I'm not sure how long it's going to be, but let's say a month.
Yeah.
But what are the problems that you're facing now? So there is this whole journey before you go live, and then there is this whole another completely story when you actually go live.
Well, I mean, the app launch has been great, and so it's a good problem to have. But now we're an operating business, and we have to manage customers, and they have demands, and so we're learning how to manage these things. And so that's something that we had underestimated probably. How do you manage the volume of customers that we've had has been phenomenal, but like how do you manage them all? And how do you manage their demands? Because people want a lot, rightfully so. I mean, we're in a consumer business and we have to provide the best service, and sometimes it slips, and we have to build that function. And so I never thought about it as a function before. Customer service, customer support was never really a function that I had thought about before, because we're a digital business. And it's very much a function now. It's something that we're building very, very fast. And so, for the people who are listening that have had bad experience, apologies, we're working on it. It's just like we didn't expect to have this kind of trajectory very early on. And so we're refining things as we go along. We're a young company, but we'll fix it. And so now we're basically working on that.
Yeah, and I think that's as we discussed before we started recording, it's a big topic that a lot of startups are underestimating.
Yes,
and as you said, rightly so, because when you think about it, it's a digital business. You know, I'm going to provide service, you know, through my app. You don't deal directly with customers. So
Exactly.
I understand why people don't see it coming. But actually, when it starts, you realize that that's probably a major part of the business that is going to impact the business probably the most.
Yeah.
We all had good and bad experiences with
sure.
customer service and support. And if
sure.
you can nail that part. So
Yeah.
what's your strategy now and plan for going forward? Are you going to build your own team or
We're building our
outsource
own
it?
team. We're actually, you know, we're refining the technology that we use because that's a big part of the pain point in some cases. So that's getting better over time. We just have a better understanding of what people want and the questions that they ask and how quickly we can respond to them. You know, but there's some people, I got to tell you, like they'll send us a message saying, I need somebody to call me urgently. I'm having an issue. And he's like, what's going on with this person? You call them and they're, oh, I just wanted to make sure that you're real. Where are you? It's like, okay, well, our office is in DIFC, you know. So you get these crazy...
Stop by for a coffee.
Yeah, it's like, so you get these crazy requests and people are like, you know, adamant and having these like serious issues. And it's just like they just want to hear a human voice, human nature.
I explained that.
They want to be heard.
I explained that because in 95 or 99% of cases, they are not heard.
Yeah, that's what it's
and
all
usually
about.
you're talking to the wall.
Yeah.
And when you actually hear Feras on the other side of the phone calling you and asking you like, what's wrong? You're like, whoa, wait, you actually exist.
Yeah, I think that's what it's all about. And like, I think there's, you know, when you're dealing with somebody virtually over text, you're kind of like, who is it? Like, there's no human element. So you say things
Chatbot
that you're
or like
probably
whatever.
like, you know, and then when you actually call somebody and you talk to them, just two human beings, you know, talking about an issue, and then, you know, 99.9% of the time it gets resolved. And it's really not that complicated. So people just want to be heard. And so like for us, like, yes, we hear you and we're trying. It's just, you know, we're just busy. And so it's not, we're going to build up that function to be able to respond faster and make things move quicker. Very early days for us, right? We've only just launched. So
no, it's a very steep learning curve.
It is. One that I definitely underestimated, but something that we are spending a lot of time and focus on kind of refining now. So
what's the future of Baraka? Where do you see it going now and plans for the next, let's say, year? That's a long term is a year.
You know, what day of the week it is? What is it right now? I have no idea. You know, it's like one step at a time. I think we just focus on what we have now, you know, refining the product, making sure that we're, you know, improving on customer service in the other areas. But we are a retail investment platform. And so as long as we are building products and services and features that people like, we, you know, will continue going down that path.
Cool. All right. I want to switch gears a bit now.
Sure.
Enough of Baraka, enough of your success story that you like to talk about. And business. Let's talk about you, your life, your experiences, lessons. You grew up in Lebanon, right? Moved to Canada.
Yeah, well, I was born in Lebanon, but I grew up in Canada.
All right, so you were born in Lebanon, Palestinian origin.
Yeah.
Grew up in Canada. Before moving into the region, you were in Qatar, right? And now UAE.
For a bit,
in the meantime,
that's right.
Did you spend your time anywhere else
on
this planet?
No, that's it. Yeah.
How did this whole life journey, moving places, influence you? Is this something that you are going to encourage your kids to do as well? What's your experience?
I think so. If you have the inclination, you should move around. If you don't, then don't. But like, you know, there's a big world out there.
Yeah.
And so I never had the inclination to actually move to the region, but I'm really happy that I did.
How did it happen?
I ended up moving for a job, for work. And it was really just like a short-term plan. It was like, I'm going to come out here, do X, you know, meet a goal, financial goal, and then I would move. And I feel very at home, particularly here. And so I've stayed for a long time, and I hope to stay for much longer. But I think, you know, as you move around, you open up, you know, you start to feel new experiences, meet different people, and it's a very enriching experience. And so I definitely encourage my own children to do it, and, you know, whoever else that has that inclination to move around. Could be anywhere. You know, you could move to China, you could move to Europe, you could move to wherever you want. Yeah, I mean, you've come from a different place as well, right? And so, I could also ask you this question
But for me, it was a game changer.
Yeah.
First game changer was when I spent a summer in US. First time when I was making money on my own, driving a cab. That was like the best experience ever.
Yeah.
And now I regret that I didn't do it earlier.
Exactly. That's funny. Yeah.
Like I did it at my last year of college. I regret I didn't started spending summers abroad in my high school.
Yeah, exactly. But now that you've done it, right, it's not as daunting, right? You could go somewhere else and...
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Right?
No, yeah. Once you leave your home for the first time, you just break that barrier.
Yeah.
And now I truly feel, maybe it's a cliche, but like a global citizen, I really feel that you can put me now on a plane and I can move to Oslo and just plug in, rent a place, get a residence visa, start a business or look for a job, and that's it.
It's kind of like starting a business. Once you've done it and you demystify it a bit,
exactly, yeah,
it makes it much more manageable. So yeah, I mean, it's very enriching, definitely. Also, I mean, just travel in general, right? Seeing different cultures, seeing different people, how they live, interacting with different people. Try to do that on the team as well. As we build the team, it's like we're trying to build, we're trying to have as many people from different parts of the world as possible. It helps.
Of course. You studied at Canada, right?
I studied in Canada.
And I like to ask this question all of the guests almost. The impact of higher education to your life. How big it was?
Fundamental, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think what you learn it's not really what you learn, it's how you learn, and it's learning that lesson. And so I think that's what higher education does, regardless of what it is that you study. I think it kind of teaches you how to think, and so be analytical and kind of and so that's something that you carry with you for the rest of your life. And so you should be, and then you should constantly be learning. What
would be, or probably thinking about it or not? You have two kids now, under 3. Okay, there is a long way to go before they start picking their, college or something.
Yeah.
But what would be the advice you would give them? How to pick, like industries, world is rapidly changing. This morning I started reading a white paper, Future of Work, and what's going to happen over the next 10, 20, 30 years. Where do you see the world coming, and what would be your advice to your kids?
I mean, ultimately, you want them to do whatever it is that they feel passionate about. No question about it. And it's funny, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I immediately, instinctively, I would say, study something related to technology. But I think the future technology is not a discipline, it's an overlay. It's not something that you study as a one-off. I think it's going to be, technology is embedded in every kind of discipline. And so, I think eventually you'll pick something that you are passionate about, and it will have a technology component in there.
Almost everything, yeah.
Yeah. And so I would say, study technology, but I don't know if that's going to be the future. I think it's going to be like, study whatever you want. And then, it's like you study English now or math or whatever. You're just going to have a technology component in there, and you're going to have to build something that's technology enabled. And so, yeah, I would say just continue with your passion and whatever is interesting. And, if technology is its own discipline in 10, 15, 20 years, study that. But if it's not, stick to what's interesting for you.
In your case, what was the biggest? There is school, there is growing up, there is family, there are friends, the place where you're growing up. What had the biggest or most positive influence on you to who you are today? Or what episode of your life or period of your life?
I think the last 5 years have been very impactful for me, especially here.
Why?
Working in the environment that I was in, and seeing innovation and technology and the impact that it has, and seeing different people from different walks of life create businesses. That's probably been the most impactful, because other than before that, I was in a very kind of corporate, rigid environment, and that was great experience, but it didn't provide the change. Like it didn't kind of push me to make the change. And like, in the environment that I was in the last 5 years is really where I just saw like all this innovative kind of world, and it just became demystified for me. It wasn't as intimidating anymore, and that's what ultimately kind of made this last, made me have this last change, and that's probably the most impactful.
You probably met a lot of people, especially over the previous, let's say, year or so, and even before that. I'm sure that you had some mentors or people that you talked to that inspired you. Is there any advice that was given to you that you remember that you would kind of influenced you a lot or helped you a lot in life? Or we can talk about the mentor that you had. Do you have mentors?
I think, instead of like the specific advice, again, it's going back to where I was working before. So I used to work for Feras, and I don't think it's specific advice that he gave, but it's the ecosystem that he created, which is very inspiring. So the impact that all the businesses that he's created have had on tens of thousands of people is inspiring. And you don't have to say much when you've done that. And that, being in that environment, if you're up for the challenge, it becomes, you become very motivated by it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably has been, as a mentor, as somebody that you look up to, who's created a ton of impact.
Yeah.
In everything that they've done and continue to do so. That's inspiring. And I never used to think about impact as much. So yeah, I think that's
it's just like unbelievable how one piece of an advice or a thing that someone shares with you from the experience can save you years of you trying to figure it out 100%. On your own.
Yeah.
And when you think of that, like spending time with people who've been through what you're going through now, or building a company, can be of great help. You're working on your board. I guess you have a board of advisors, or you're surrounding yourself with people who can help you out. Is this something you're focusing on? You're thinking about a lot?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And it's probably, a collection of people from diverse backgrounds. Putting together a collection of people from diverse backgrounds that have something to add, not just in business but in life, and impact and all of that stuff. And it all comes together to create something that's great. And if I would have cut out the last 5 years from my life, and I had just jumped in a startup, and without having had that experience, I probably would have just been very focused on having business people, and not considering impact, not considering all of these other things. And so now I feel like much more well-rounded, and so the business should be that way, and we should think more holistically about all of these different stakeholders.
360,
yeah.
You asked me before the show, are we swearing at this show? We are not, but this is the only moment I'm going to swear. So not really in that way. There is this global movement that is called How I Fucked Up. That's it. I said it.
That's on you. It's your show.
That's on me. But basically this movement is throwing up like events around the world celebrating failures. And in the world where everyone is celebrating successes all the time, we're all talking about our LinkedIn profiles. Everything is about our successes. Very rarely you can see someone talking about their failures. Is there a failure of yours that you would, or the favorite failure of yours that taught you a lesson, or later on down the road actually had a positive impact on your life?
That's a good question. I need to think about that. I think maybe I haven't had it yet.
Maybe
it hasn't been that impactful, right? I hope it's not this business, but I don't think it would deter me from starting something else or doing something else. And so I think the way that I think about failure is different as well. And so, yeah, I probably failed in many, many different things. I've started businesses before that weren't real businesses, but they were businesses, quote unquote. And so they weren't, you learn from those things. And so I don't know if I can point to one thing specifically, but it's probably a collection of many things.
But every failure, if you look at it, every failure is a lesson. And if you learn the lesson, it has a positive impact on your life. So you don't necessarily even need to call it a
Yeah.
failure. You made a mistake, you know.
Yeah.
You went for A instead of B and you just realized, oh fuck.
Yeah.
I said it again.
But is it catastrophic?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No. Are there probably some missed opportunities? Instead of saying failures, are there probably some missed opportunities that I look back and think like, if I would have chose like a different path and done something like, could have been more.
Is there some?
Yeah, there's probably a bunch. Is there
but also
like,
you can point out, or
I don't think it's the point. Like, I think there's probably several that I could point to, but like, it doesn't matter because it, like, ultimately that, you know, you've chosen all of those different, you know, routes and you've gotten to the point where you are now. So like, why even
thinking about it?
Yeah. What's the point?
And you know what? Just a couple of weeks back, I was thinking about it, and
why?
And I was no. Hear me out. And I was thinking, imagine that you can turn back time and you are again whatever 16.
Yeah.
And like at the first point, I was excited. Wow, imagine that. And then I started thinking there was a lot of things that happen in my life, right? That could be, you know, if someone would ask you, you would be happy to change.
Yeah.
But when I actually thought about it, I said, you know what? No matter how some of these situations were difficult, I wouldn't change any of them. Because, you know, you selected A, then selected C, D, A again, B, D. Maybe if I did something differently, that would be at that time better for me, would have a lot, you know, worst impact on me later on in life.
That's the point, right?
So where you are today is because you made those choices.
Exactly. So you can't go back. I mean, you can't go back in time anyways.
You can't go anyways, yeah.
You can think about it and see how, you know, think about, you know, what your learnings are. But why would you change any of them anyway?
Exactly.
You're here at this moment, in this present, you know, at this time. And
that's it.
And that's it. You have to be a bit of a realist about it, right?
That's true. Ray Dalio, you heard about him probably.
Of course, yeah.
He wrote the book Principles that you may
Great book.
Yeah. All right. Great. So my question is, do you have some principles of your own that you're following?
Yeah, in terms of business or in life?
Both life and business.
So in terms of life, and probably this is a new principle that I actually never really thought about before. And just going back to what we discussed before is like create some kind of impact, right? Some kind of impact, positive impact, obviously. Enable other people to create some kind of impact, positive impact. And these are, you know, two kind of guiding principles.
And I think these are important. And I talk a lot about Ikigai. Maybe you heard about that. The Japanese formula for a long, happy life. And they say if you are to find your Ikigai, you need to find something that you are good at.
Yep.
That you can get paid for, so that you can live out of it, that you're passionate about, so not only good, passionate about, but the fourth very important dimension is that has an impact to the world, that is helping world.
Yeah.
And I think really in everything that you do, having this dimension is very important.
Yeah.
To feel satisfied and fulfilled about it.
Yeah, and I think like I don't like to talk about it. You know, I think it's a bit cheesy to people. I want to create impact, but like for me, I found a business where you know, something that I love, which is investing, which I see the benefit of, not only on myself but you know, on my family, on communities, on everything, and to be able to give access to people to invest. That's a little bit of impact. So like that's my version of you know, the kind of impact that we can create. And it may be small, it's trivial, you know, to other people it's silly, but for me it like
makes you feel fulfilled. Yeah,
and it's the combination of all these things that you mentioned, and creating them in you know, and building them and packaging them. And
you have it.
I feel like it's, you know, we're getting to that point. You know, I don't think you ever really fully have it, right? You just kind of constantly on the search for it, but like, you know, you feel like you're on the right path.
Yeah. All right, my last question, because before we jump into a very quick game, as the change officer, if there was one thing that you could change about Middle East, what would that be?
I think a more unified market would be great for business and great for people in the region.
That's 100%. And I think the opportunity is huge.
Yeah.
in the previous episode we talked about there's 350 million people in this market combined.
More, I think.
Or more.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably more. Only Egypt is 110. So definitely that would help. If you think about US, that has
as a unified market.
And the opportunity.
It's a force, right?
Yeah, and you're in UAE with 10 million or 9.
Yeah,
and it's a micro market.
It's incredible.
So 100%. All right, cool. We're going to play one quick game.
Okay.
Easy. I'm going to ask you one or two, and you tell me just which one you select, first or second option. All right.
Okay.
USA or UAE?
UAE.
Millennials or Zoomers?
Millennials.
Acorns or Robinhood?
Robinhood.
Tesla stock or Zoom stock?
Oof. That's a tough one. I personally would, I'm not giving investment advice. Let me just.
All right.
I think probably Tesla.
Content life or exciting life?
Can't you have both? I mean, that's tough. Like, why can't you have a content, exciting?
All right, we'll go for both. Party at the 5 Hotel or
the other one.
Dinner
before you finish.
Dinner at Ravi.
The other one, exactly. Exactly.
Ants or elephants?
Ants.
$10 million in cash or bonus 5 years of life?
That's a good one.
Gets you thinking, right?
That really gets you thinking. 5 years in life.
Because you're going to make this 10 million.
One way to put it.
Camping in Al Qudra or hiking in Ras Al Khaimah?
Camping in where, sorry?
Al Qudra.
Or
hiking in Ras Al Khaimah.
Hiking.
Great advice or life-changing experience?
Life-changing experience.
$100,000 in marketing or $100,000 in entertainment with clients?
Marketing.
In your case,
marketing.
You need more for all of your clients. Turning back time or seeing the future?
Seeing the future.
Being invisible or being able to fly?
Being able to fly.
1 year on a deserted island or 1 year in the deep jungles of Amazonia?
Deserted island.
All right. The Change Officer podcast or the Joe Rogan Experience?
Change Officer podcast.
Let's go. Thanks for coming, man. It was awesome.
Thank you. That was awesome. Appreciate it.
Guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope that we answered some of your questions or maybe concerns that you have, that Feras managed to inspire you as well. Support him, support Baraka, try it out. And now you heard that Feras will call you if there is anything wrong. So
maybe. Hopefully nothing's wrong.
Anyway, if you like what we're doing here with the Change Officer podcast, please like and subscribe. It's going to mean a lot to us. And stay tuned. There is another great episode coming out next Monday. Until then, have a great day. Feras, thanks for coming, man. It was awesome.
Thank you, sir. That was great.